I was watching about the lawsuits on the opiates with Oklahoma and Johnson & Johnson, and I sat there and wondered why, before all this took place, that they didn't stand on the shoulders of those that were here before us and looked. That's all they had to do. Let's take a peek.
Now, people oftentimes don't think we had a lot of medicines in the Civil War, but we did have a lot of medicines. And I tell them, they were kind of like, in those days, they're kind of like today. Sometimes they were really good and sometimes they didn't work worth a darn. But they had a variety of medicines that they did use to try different things on. So what you're looking at here now are two original Civil War pharmacy kits with original medicines, okay? There are such that you can't, not all of them are labeled, so I don't know what all of them are, and I probably wouldn't recognize some of the names anyway because they're completely different from what we have today. But there are certain things in there like ether and chloroform. I don't know if I mentioned to you that 95% of our surgeries in the Civil War were done under anesthetic conditions using chloroform or ether. That may be the biggest misunderstanding of Civil War medicine. Most people will come to my display and they will say, "Oh, this is terrible, you didn't have any anesthesia," and I'll say, and I'll have to correct them. I'll say, "But you're wrong, we did 95% of the time, we did use anesthesia." Now, I said 95%, that leaves 5%, which the doctor may not have had any anesthesia. So at that point, he would have given the man some whiskey, he would have put 2 bullets in their mouth, one on each side of his mouth so he can bite down evenly. That's where the term bite the bullet comes from, okay? So they would bite the bullet and then he would cut, okay? But that is the exception to the rule. I want to emphasize that's the exception to the rule and not the general rule, because 95% of the time they were given something to put them to sleep. Now, there were other things in there. Morphine, some of our painkillers, very important to the soldiers. Morphine was used widely. Whiskey, the hospital always had lots of whiskey for medicinal purposes, of course, you understand, for medicinal purposes only. But we had lots of whiskey. We had a product called laudanum. If you watch Western movies, laudanum is oftentimes mentioned in these Western movies. Wyatt Earp's wife in Tombstone, she was addicted to laudanum, and she was high all the time on laudanum. General Hood, who was a Confederate general for the Army of Tennessee, he had lost use of his arm at Gettysburg, his left arm. He had lost his leg at Chickamauga, and he was on laudanum. And a lot of people blame him for being on laudanum for the Battle of Franklin tactical mistakes and the Battle of Nashville tactical mistakes. I don't really think that was it. I think there were other reasons that he did what he did, but a lot of folks blame him on laudanum. Now, laudanum is a very strong addictive. They're all very addictive, but laudanum is, believe this or not, it's 20% whiskey and 80% opium. So it's a very strong opiate. And of course, then we had opium. So those were our major painkillers. So once a man had surgery, if the doctor had painkillers, that's what they would give him to relieve the pain.